What's up, everyone? Welcome back. I'm Devin, executive producer over at Devenio Podcast, and today I'm really excited to bring you a snippet from a conversation in another video that we shot with our sister brand, Devenio Media, where we sat down with Klaudia Tirico, the former content director over at the B2B Marketing Exchange, and we talked about all things content creation as far as building the program for the event itself, all the way through using the content from the show to feed a content engine over the course of the year. During that conversation, we talked a lot about a podcast booth that they ran at the show for years and all about the success and how they were able to achieve that. So today we're bringing you a portion of that conversation all about the podcast booth, how they leveraged a podcast alongside their event to drive growth over time. I hope you enjoy this conversation. If you want to check out the full video, you can go ahead and click the link in the show notes for the full conversation. Enjoy.
And then during and immediately after the show, we focused on that media capture to fuel the next cycle. So session recording, this for B2B MX on demand, as well as the podcast, because I'm not sure if we even talked about it, but a lot of the podcast is essentially recordings, audio recordings of the actual sessions on stage at the show. That was our bread and butter of the podcast, right? So we also used it for, clips for social media. And then we had, speakers come on the podcast, and then we had visuals that really carried the story forward. So instead of peaks and drop-offs, the content really created a loop, right? Engage, educate, engage, prove value, and just rinse and repeat, right? And it was all anchored by the live event each year.
Yeah, that's great. It seems really well thought out. You mentioned the podcast, so let's dive into that a little bit, because that was a major. I mean, that was going on since 2019, something like that. You guys were doing it
that was before my time. I wasn't even a part of the podcast beginning, so you guys eventually invited me on board to the party.
Yeah, it's been around alongside the event for a long time as a companion piece.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about that a little bit, because it was such a big thing. How did you guys sort of position the show around the event? I mean, this kind of goes into what we were just talking about in the last question, but sort of how did you guys position? Because I know you did a seasonal model. So how did you position these seasons and alongside the event?
Yeah, so we positioned the podcast as that connective layer, not just a standalone channel, right? So it extended the conversations happening at the event all year and gave a more kind of informal and human perspective, and really reinforced the themes we were exploring on stage and what we were going to explore on stage, right? So it helped us keep the brand and the content alive beyond just the few days of the conference. So essentially what we did was the prior events recordings and content that we either recorded on site in the marketplace or that we recorded, of speakers on stage, was then used as a full season leading up to the next event. And what some people may not even know is that B2B MX, for a solid amount of time, right? Not always, but there were 2 events in the year. Right. So we had B2B Marketing Exchange, and then we had the B2B Sales and Marketing Exchange. So there were 2 events in the year. So we essentially had those 2 seasons within the year kind of leading up to each of those events. So we would leverage all of that content. So whether it was a session recording as one episode, and then the week after, we would play a extended interview with that speaker that we recorded on site, either before or after they were on stage, right? And we kind of just expanded on the session. So the sessions themselves were about 30 minutes long on stage. So we were able to kind of dive deeper into the topic and cover much more, and then use that as a whole second episode or a follow-up episode to the actual recording. And then we also then sprinkled in some teaser interviews and things like that with future speakers to promote their sessions and their keynotes and things like that. So that was basically the strategy. And it probably sounds much more kind of clean cut and less chaotic, but it was very chaotic.
Yeah, I can't imagine. I mean, my next question, and you kind of already answered it, was going to be, you know, with a content director who's responsible for the content of the show, with everything else you guys have going on. I mean, you had a lean team. My next question was going to be, how did you get around to recording these episodes? But it seems like it was sort of turnkey and almost like a well-oiled machine because everything was being captured while you were on site at the event for the most part, like you mentioned.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I was also running around like a chicken without a head, being the liaison for speakers and making sure, everybody's in the right room at this, at the right time and all of that. So we simply just had a, very simple kind of podcast schedule that you essentially created. And we would reach out. Even if it was like last minute, we would talk to speakers. And even in my conversations with speakers, we would, just find a little time during a networking break or, a snippet in between sessions, just to sit down and have some quick conversations. And, it was fine. Consistency came from really building podcasting into our workflow in general. So we were pretty much used to it. So we batched recordings around those key moments, like I said, especially at the event. So a few days of, intense recording really just fueled months of episodes and just planning and scheduling and a few eye rolls here and there and a few kind of, panic attacks. And here we are. We got it done.
Well, it was very successful for you guys with all that work and panic attacks and everything aside. It was very successful. Why do you think this strategy of having a podcast booth at the event, developing podcast content, in these seasons, ramping into the event? Why do you think that was so successful for you guys?
Yeah, that podcast booth was really important, and having that every year on the show floor definitely brought more interest into it, right? So we invited speakers to join us for those interviews during those networking breaks to really expand on those topics, like I said. But at the end of the day, it became like this like high energy hub within the marketplace, and people would walk by and stop by out of curiosity and be like, oh, what are you guys doing? And they were asking questions. And then we'd be like, oh, come on the show if you got something important to say. And then, especially during those networking breaks, the drinks were flowing too. So those conversations got really fun as well. So yeah, we let people come in and participate, and it really just helped, generate buzz and excitement on site. So it was always a fun add-on to have in that marketplace for sure.
That's awesome. And overall for the show, it's the podcast, I should say itself. Why do you think, with all the other content that you had alongside it, I know that there was it last year, I think we had a couple of people come up to the podcast booth and just say, we didn't know about the B2B Marketing Exchange until we found this podcast. And so we found that we started listening to the show, found out about the event, and now we're here now. So they were very excited to be there. To me, that just shows that the podcast at work being successful. Why do you think that overall that strategy was successful for you guys?
Honestly, 3 words. It combined efficiency, authenticity, and visibility all in one. So we were able to capture high quality, real-time content. We had these amplified voices from the community, and we made content creation part of the entire event experience. So it just kept the conversation going all year round and really reinforced the event's themes and created valuable marketing assets without really feeling forced. And, it just brought life to the event beyond those 3 days of content.
So really great stuff from Klaudia. If you want to check out the full conversation, check out the link in the show notes. We'll have the full video there. If you want to learn more from Klaudia, you can check her out and find her on LinkedIn. Again, we'll have her link in the show notes so you can connect with her there. As usual, if you have any questions and want to get in touch with us, you can reach out to us at the email in the show notes. And now we want to hear from you. How are you leveraging podcasts with your event? And how have you been successful over time with this? Let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. If you're not yet subscribed, be sure to click the button below so you don't miss more content just like this. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.